We are so happy you're here, and we can't hear you.
It's the earbuds.
All right,
earbuds.
go into normal mode. Hello, my friends. I'm so prepared for today. I'm glad that I'm here.
Yay. Okay, so then let's start. Let's start with our first topic. You ready?
Absolutely.
Welcome to the Sales SOS podcast. I'm Liz Hyman, your host, and I am here with the Sales SOS podcast crew, Chris Bowen, Renee Bigelow, and Bryn Tillman. And today we are going to have 4 different topics that we talk about. In this episode, we're talking about what I've always done isn't working anymore, right? Sales leaders, company owners, salespeople, they're saying the same thing. And I want to start with the kind of the biggest, scariest one, which is, why am I losing clients that I've always had? Like, I've always had this relationship. I built my business on it, and it went away. It's going away. They're buying less. Like, this is really scary for business owners and for salespeople when they count on that as their primary source of income. But in some companies, as much as 80% of their revenue can come from 1 or 2 clients. And then that becomes really scary. So, Chris, we were kind of talking off screen a minute ago. Chris, you had some thoughts about this. Like, why is this happening?
Well, I mean, I think when you look at it, it's going to be probably a plethora of things, right? One, your customer now has more access to understanding your competition better than they ever have. It's easier for other people to connect to them. It's also really easy for them to look and say, hey, what we've always been doing, are there gaps that you have not been exposing that we should know about, but for whatever reason you haven't brought those things to our attention? Someone else is, and we need to solve that end-to-end problem, not just a couple of different points within that solution. So I think there's a lot of things that go on. It's ultimately, I think, someone's asleep at the wheel a little bit and not paying attention, probably not building relationships across that organization, not building relationships with new leaders when they come in, not really able to maybe articulate the value that they really bring to that business, not what it is to you as a seller, what it is to that business. If you can't do those things, you're going to struggle with where you're at. So,
okay, so I have to give a Bryn quote: disconnect from what value this has to you, detach, and attach or connect. Go ahead, you do it. You do it better, Bryn.
Detach from what the prospect is worth to you, and attach to what you're worth to the prospect.
And whether it's a client or a prospect, it's the same thing, right?
Exactly. Can I add to? Oh, go ahead.
I always look at it. If you put the client at the center, the client or prospect at the center, and focus on that, you will eventually be able to bring value there. But if you start making it about you, why should they care?
Yes.
Can I and a little Chris there?
Yes.
All right. So yes, I could go. I have a list of probably 73 things I could talk about, but I want to go off of something Chris said briefly that is so critical. We need to move away from single threading, meaning having one relationship inside of a company. LinkedIn tells us the average tenure of an executive is 5 years. That means 20% of your clients are leaving, 20% of your champions are leaving this year. And that is critical, that you have built relationships with all of the stakeholders, because even if your champion is replaced and they want to bring in their person, you've built deeper relationships inside that organization and they'll go to bat for you. So that's number one. The one thing I am hearing all the time now is the economy is not great. So sales are down. So they have to rethink everything. And they're looking at a lot of solutions and saying, is this a critical, they're getting new revenue is tough. So now they're cutting back expenses. And this is something I'm seeing across the board. It's, it's a challenge for a lot of folks, especially in manufacturing or companies where they're relying on products that have been tariffed and prices are up. And there's just a lot that's happening in the economy. And now fuel's back up. And so all the prices are going back. And all those things are affecting how they're buying because it's affecting their price, right? So they have, and there are things that are out of their control. So now they're taking on the responsibility of what can I control? And so non-essential, especially non-essential direct revenue generating business is getting hurt. It's being cut back. So that's really important. And I'll piggyback on that and say, one of the things, and I actually personally lost a client this year, heartbreaking, that I've had for 10 years. And my champion left. So I am preaching to myself right now because I know she retired and I was handed off to her boss who then had to cut back and I did not have the deep relationship with him the way I had with her. Interestingly enough, I found out 2 weeks ago he's at another company. So something else happened in there too. But it was 10 years of extreme value done. So that can happen to all of us, even the salespeople, us who know what to do, it's happening to as well. And it's okay, right? Like it's a wake-up call. And I realized I was so deeply embedded with my champion that I missed the 8 or 10 other people I should have been deeply embedded with.
I got to stop for a second because I think this is one of the most important things when we're talking about a large account that has revenue that's important to us. In order to survive in that account long term, you have to build a lot of relationships. And you guys have probably heard me talk about this before. Relationships have gravity. Right? Business relationships have gravity. And what happens is we get pushed down to an operational level. We may have been, when we came in with the sale, we may have been strategic and then we may have been important, but over time we become operational. And what happens is what Chris was saying, which is essentially we become reactive and we start taking orders. And Renee, I know you have something to say. I want to just go back to something from my Miller Heiman days, which actually someone else, a new contact that I just made, reminded me of this thing we call the buy-sell hierarchy, which was part of large account management. And that hierarchy, and I don't remember the exact words, so forgive me, all of you Miller Heiman fans that know it. I don't remember. But basically it starts at the bottom as like a vendor. This is one I choose from whenever I want, and they have no strategic importance. And then you become a good vendor, like somebody I count on to deliver good product and services. And then you become an operational partner, somebody I count on to help me with the day-to-day goings on of my company. And there's 3 or 4 levels above that before you get to be strategic partner. And just because you started as a strategic partner doesn't mean you get to stay there. If you go from helping them solve problems, being aware of what's coming up in the future, and let things go down to an operational level, you just become another vendor. And that's when you lose your footing, right? Because you left the door open for somebody else to walk in and say, I can do this just as well as they can for a better price. And you don't have the relationships, or you don't have the belief that you are important to their business. So they make those decisions. Renee, go ahead, jump in.
Actually, you teed me up really well because I want to take it back a step. And I think where you led with where you get in as a strategic partner or what level you are in that buy-sell framework, right? And how you don't always stay there. I think that's a critical bridge to what I want to add to the conversation. If we back up and we think, why are customers leaving? I think it's very easy to point to sales. And in some cases that is true. Like, yes, we could be multi-threading. Yes, we could do better in having deeper relationships across the organization, deeper with more breadth, right? But that's easy. I think it's very important to also ask at the strategic level, are we keeping up with the market? Because there are a lot of companies who aren't, And that is the deeper problem. And it may be your product is not, or it may be the way you're selling is not. And so that's not exactly what you push to sales, it's how you set sales up, right? So if everyone else has moved to online ordering management where they can do a lot more of things themselves, and you require that they talk to someone in order, not that they don't have a salesperson, but that they have to talk to someone to do anything, you aren't keeping up with the market, right? If you don't have the same variety, if you don't have the same pricing, if you don't, all of those things. And it's not just taking for granted, it's your business strategy keeping up with the market and the way you're going to market, right? I think that's the first thing we have to look at when we see long-term relationships fleeing, right? Or starting to see attrition with those. It's a late signal, but it's a signal, right? If you, however, are doing what you're talking about, where you have those deeper relationships, you often see earlier signals before they leave, right? Where they're telling you and you're getting those feedback loops. The other thing, so activating those feedback loops is incredibly important so that you don't fall behind on your business strategy and your go-to-market strategy. I think, that kind of ties that together. But the other piece that I see, particularly over the past 2 or 3 years, where this kind of stall and stagnation has kind of hit, is companies are not, even when they are keeping up with the market and doing things and making all these changes, and you'll have a business owner just saying, like, my competitors don't deserve the business they're getting. And I know I'm doing this. The market doesn't know what you're doing. If you have been getting business in a gift market, or you had some sort of surge and you've had that, and then you're riding it without continuing to externalize the things that are going on, the tail of your surge ends up in a dip versus pulling it out further. So do you have things that you've modernized? Do you have new acquisitions? Do you have new products? Do you have new ways that you've made it easier to do business with you? Have you externalized those as a company, not relied on a salesperson to tell that fragile one champion relationship, one person in a company who's your champion? Have you just relied on that very fragile relationship of one salesperson and one championship, or have you externalized that as a company? So before you push it down to sales needs to do this, I think those are two things that need to kind of be examined: the whole strategy, and are you externalizing what you are doing to keep up in the market?
So let's talk about strategy for a second. Hang on, Chris, 1 second.
Sure.
Let's just talk about strategy, because strategy is not reactive,
Mhm.
right? Strategy is proactive. And in order to be proactive, I have to understand my clients. I have to know what's going on with them. I have to know what things they're trying to solve for. And I have to proactively let them know that I can solve that problem.
Mhm.
It's my responsibility to do that, right?
Yep.
If I am not doing that, I am doing my clients a disservice. If there are other divisions that do not know I exist, I am doing my client a disservice.
Absolutely.
Go ahead, Chris.
Well, one of the things I was going to say that gets in the way frequently is your unwillingness to cannibalize your own business. AI being the easy example. It was going to take a portion of your business. You didn't want to see that business go away. So then a competitor comes in with something else that's going to trim 20, 30, 40% of that cost. You could have done that, but you didn't want to touch the top line on that account. So you did that account, that customer, set of customers, a disservice, the same way that you were just talking about. It's like you weren't thinking of them, you were thinking of yourself. And at that point, good luck.
Yeah, absolutely.
I also believe we get complacent with a lot of our clients, and their world has changed. AI has changed their world. The economy is changing their world. There's so many things that are affecting our clients that are different than it was a couple of years ago.
So I want to just hang on to that for a second, because
Okay.
Renee and I had a client together, and this client said to us, our clients don't want to purchase online. They want to send us emails and call us.
No, they don't. They were wrong, I bet.
And they were convinced that this was true. And what they didn't understand was because they didn't provide an easy way to do that, and because their online ordering was clunky and disjointed, it wasn't providing what the clients needed. But they didn't take the time to do what Renee says, which is to externalize and understand what our client needs, and to do what Bryn was talking about, which is to make sure that we are doing what they need.
It's like if you sit there and say, hey, 100% of my clients interact with me through the phone or through fax machines or whatever, or email or whatever it happens to be, that's got to be proof positive. Well, no, because they don't have any other options.
Actually, it was a little bit more nuanced than that, in that the customers they still had
Right.
were
Right.
The
They didn't realize they lost customers because they didn't have new options.
Right. They had already lost customers and they weren't gaining those who had moved with the market. So the ones they were listening to were the laggards who were going to move on eventually, but were holding on for dear life to something that wasn't making them change. And it was one of the top reasons that they had stalled growth and then were starting to slip, right?
Mhm.
So it goes into, understanding where your not only your current customers are, but where the entire market is, and understanding where the growth is. Because even those laggards at some point are going to jump ship. And largely there's going to be a trigger in there that a deeper account management, a deeper account relationship would fix, because it's often a staff change that
Right.
forces that, right?
Right. So I will say, just, not that we work in a lot of retail, but Macy's is the biggest example. Everyone growing up shopped at Macy's, and Macy's believed, and my daughter was a fashion designer for Alfani. So right up until close to the pandemic, they weren't, first of all, they were not prepared for the pandemic because their shopping experience online was horrible. Had they had an Amazon-like experience, which they had all the resources in the world to build, but they believed people still wanted to try on the clothes in the store, and now, I don't know, what are we at, 20% of the stores that they had 5-7 years ago?
Yeah.
Because
So-
they didn't adjust.
So let me just say, Macy's, if you're listening, I know how to fix your problem. I have an entire plan for you about how to make the customer experience better, because I used to be a platinum
Me too.
buyer at Macy's. I
Me too.
almost buy nothing now.
Me too.
But here, this is really important. And I think this will lead into the other things. My daughter and I were talking about this just before I came on, which is buyers expect something different from their experience. And we need to know what our buyers expect. How do our buyers want to buy? What tools are they going to use? How do they want to engage with us? And not all buyers are the same. And it's our job to know what would make their experience good. It's not their job to make their experience good. Go ahead, Chris.
Well,
what were you
one
gonna say?
of the things you're seeing, which is in an industry that you may not necessarily expect, is in healthcare. You have seen for a push for this for a while, but I think you're going to see it accelerate, where it is much more of that type of end user experience from a healthcare perspective. I think our generations have sort of dealt with the inefficiencies and the lack of personalization and stuff like that happens in healthcare, and just took it as that's the way it is. But like my stepdaughters and stuff like that, their friends, they're not really willing to put up with that type of an experience. And you're gonna see big pushes for, if someone can change that experience and make it more user friendly, make it less friction, make it more transparent, you're gonna see that company be a significant player.
Can I share? I had a dental emergency. And now I'm in love with this dental practice. I actually asked him, is this a franchise? He's like, no, just myself and another dentist own it. It was the most amazing experience from the moment I called until they took me within 15 hours of the call, which was a Sunday. They had an automated AI agent that answered and booked the appointment at 10 o'clock at night on a Sunday for me to come in on Monday. And I got there and they had transcribed everything I said to the AI agent. And they said, here are the things that we heard. Is there anything else you want to add to this?
Bren,
like,
I think one of my former clients was the software behind that whole experience.
It is so freaking amazing. So now I get in the seat. Not only does the dentist know everything and saw everything, I lie back and there is a TV on the ceiling. And he's like, you want Netflix? You want HBO? What do you want? And now I'm in the chair getting a cracked bridge refixed. And, it's a $10,000 gig for him. So great, because it's a ridiculous amount of work that I need. But I'm sitting there watching the British baking show while I'm in the dental chair. And what a difference.
So I want to just say one thing about this. Well, two things I want to say. One is we call this patient-centric care. And it's a model that we're trying to push through the medical world. But we really need to be thinking about, I have no idea what that beep just was. We really need to be thinking.
The baking show, the cake is ready.
The cake is ready. Let's go. We really need to be thinking about this buyer-centric process. And we also need to be thinking about AI. How did AI make the experience better? And where do we want to replace people with AI so that people have time to interact with us and make us feel seen and taken care of and comfortable and safe?
Yeah. And I just want to finish this because it's so amazing. So I put a Google review, which I almost never do. And when I came back, he's like, oh my God, Bryn, thank you so much for that Google review. Like,
people matter.
So can I share a little something here? You are a new customer. You just pointed out in Patient-Centric Care with a new customer, right? Like, we provide and have spent an incredible amount of time zeroing in on the customer experience in parentheses, largely for new customers. So if we're talking about this problem that people are seeing customers drift, there's an experience drift often, right? And it's not like, it is a little bit like we get.
That's very good bridging.
Good job, Renee.
It's not just that we see it get complacent. It's that we have spent an inordinate amount of time on making sure that new customer experience is primo. It is supreme, right? Like, that is where our efforts go. This goes back to strategy. And Liz, you and I say this all the time. We believe there are trillions of dollars left on the board all around the country. She's nodding because I know she knows where I'm going, in upselling accounts and continuing that experience further into the relationship, right? So if you think about it, like, if you are experiencing this issue with your customers, can you honestly say, have we had experience drift from the experience they had when they came in to the experience they've been having now? The other question that I said earlier, have we kept up with the market? Have we truly kept up with the market? Are we listening to the market? Or are we listening to people who are like holding on for dear life for nothing to change, right? Like, and then have we addressed how we go to market and how we service? Because that goes to that deeper account relationship. If you answer those three things and you say, no, we're doing all of these, then I say, have you externalized it? Maybe you need to start looking at your marketing. Like, there's some other things. But my guess is most everybody I've talked to, one of those three things, they're like, yep, if not all three.
I think you also have to have you should hopefully have an understanding of how your customer buys, right? Yeah. Do you understand how they're going to market for their customers and what those customers expect? Because you're somewhere within that value chain, wherever it is, right? And you need to be able.
I put that in my target persona canvas. We need to know your customer's customer acquisition process, because they have invested a ton of money and thought and time into making their process better. And if you don't meet their process, you stick out, right? Their expectation is at least as good as them.
Stick out negatively. Yeah.
All right, let's wrap up this session. I think these have been some really good points that we've made, and it's, if you've been listening to this and thinking, are my biggest, best customers at risk? The answer is yes, they are at risk. So what are you going to do to secure that relationship, or at least find out early that you might lose it? And it's all about multi-threading, right? Which is the word we use for being in touch with multiple people, building relationships across the organization at multiple levels, making sure that you understand them, their marketplace, their customers, how do they all buy and interact, and making sure that you are providing the best experience that you can for your clients. And if you're not doing those things, and if you're not strategically thinking about it, and you're just reacting, your clients are at risk. Those
And Liz, just a little icing on that cake, if I can. You pointed out in the very beginning that there are many customers that have an outsized percent of their business in a small number of clients. Bryn pointed out where some of the stressors in the economy right now. It is worth doing that audit on your list now, if you haven't at all, prioritizing this for Q2 before things get worse, because even if they are short-term pressures right now, it's going to change decisions, right? I mean, I'm not even saying what ifs. I'm just saying with price of oil today, we know how that ripples through the economy, right? If it goes longer than a couple of weeks, it's going to start affecting how people make decisions. It's time to sit down and figure out where your risk is in a big client and what your plan is to mitigate that as much as possible, and or figure out how you're going to replace it.
Let me make that practical. So if my client says they need to cut expenses 10% because of oil costs or because of tariffs, whatever it is, and my competitor goes into my client and says, I can cut that 10%. And that client does not see me as a strategic partner critical to their success, they're going to take the 10% cut.
We have to be more than a price.
Right. So, all right. Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Sales SOS podcast.
Is Mike in the waiting room?
I can't see him. I've sent him text messages.
Okay.
He just sent me a text message of him in, and he can see but I can't see him. I don't know. I think if I go out and come back in, it will close the room.
Yeah.
Maybe he can go and come back.
Mike, can you chat here? Okay, try.
Did you leave and come back?
I left and came back.
Yeah. Mike, if you can hear us, leave and come back. That's what Bryn had to do.
He said it just exited and he's going to try again. We'll see. Okay. I don't know why this program is not working the way it should today. Restream, help me.
Well, the one thing I noticed is it says copy of what I've always done. It's not the one that was originally.
No, because it was the wrong time. So we've been fighting with that this whole time. But
anyway, yeah.
But Mike was here. I mean, it showed me he was here.
Oh, yeah. So.
And when you came in also, I could see it said Bryn is here, but
you couldn't get me in.
No picture of you that I could invite in. Thanks for putting up with this and our tech troubles, to our guests that are here with us.
Welcome to the green room, backstage.
It's okay. They're not calling us to produce their podcasts.
Do not call me.
Oh, bummer. I was thinking of going in that business.
I have about 1,000 people who have connected with me on LinkedIn who would like to
produce your podcast.
Produce my podcast. He said he just left the house. He gave up. We're going without Mike.
Okay.
I will reach out to the Restream folks and ask them what on earth happened today. But let's jump into our next podcast. And
cool.
Our next episode, we're going to talk about channel partners. So let's get started.
I love this one. I have so much.
Okay. Welcome to the Sales SOS podcast. I'm Liz Hyman, your host, and I am here with your Sales SOS podcast crew, Chris Bowen, Renee Bigelow, and Bryn Tillman. And we're talking about what I keep hearing every day, which is what I've always done is not working anymore. I always counted on this and it's not delivering the way it used to. And in this episode, we want to specifically talk about channel partners. So I'm not sure if you're seeing this or if you're experiencing this, but my clients are saying my channel partners are not delivering the way they used to. They used to be a consistent source of revenue I could predict and I can count on, and it is no longer true. And I've seen this trend really over the last 5 or 6 years get worse and worse. So you guys, what's going on?
I have one. I'll start with this one. You all know I have little folksy ways of saying things that just kind of drill it down. And for channel partners in particular, most companies that rely heavily on channel partners were what I refer to as if you know verticals. They were closed, small networks where you had to know somebody. And if you know, this is the person you used, right? And those channel partners were the conduit to those closed networks, right? I didn't know somebody at this. They found me that person. I work with the channel, they get me to it, right? That is a huge chunk of where channel sales lived. And the world has opened up. And this goes back to that business strategy that we talked about in the last episode. If the market has moved to where other people can discover them more, the channel is less critical for the if you know part. Right? You don't need that conduit into that if you know that you needed in the past. So it's part of the tension between the market changing, and I don't mean your competitors, I don't even mean your exact customers, I mean the marketplace, right? So if there's something similar out there that doesn't even fit what you fit exactly, but that's discoverable and it works and it's doing okay, your customers may be there, right? Even though it's not the exact same thing you do. So that modernization part of if you know, and a lot of that goes back to another point that I made in our last podcast about why sales are not as good as they used to with some of your existing customers, where we're losing existing customers. It's the same thing here with channel. Are you externalizing and making known the things that you're doing in your business? Are you relying on the channel to do that? Because if you're relying on the channel to do that, and people go to do their own research, first, let me say, then you're only as strong as your channel. So you have any kind of blind spot in your channel, that is your biggest risk right there, right? But second, anybody doing their own research, and almost everyone does now, and it's going to skyrocket with AI, right? Even though it's starting to now, it's not as much as it will be. It's hard to imagine it's going to 100x from where it is now. But AI is going to move people through the journey much faster because you can ask multiple questions in a row and keep going down the wormhole all the way from discovering something to making a decision in the same conversation. So AI is going to really make this bigger. If you are not externalizing that information so that it can be picked up by people doing their own research, by AI bots crawling for training information, by search results, by AI agents that are going to compile reports for your customer, and you are relying on the channel to do that for you, you will get left out.
So I want to stop and back up for a second. Hang on, Bryn. What is a channel? And this was my mistake. I should have started with this. What do I mean by a channel? We all sell through different channels if we use channels. Some people call them dealers. Some people call them
distributors,
manufacturers, reps. Maybe they're MSPs, managed service providers, agents. My channel are organizations called MEPs, right? So when I say channel, what I'm saying is that if there is somebody between you and your customer sometimes who helps you in that selling process, who brings customers to you or who you give prospects to so they can go out and sell them, that's a channel. So if you think, well, I don't have channel sales, maybe this will help you rethink. Maybe you do have channel sales. And even a referral partner, in a sense, can be thought of as a channel because they're the ones that are finding the clients and bringing them to you, even if they don't become between you and them in the sales process. So we usually think about the channel being the one who bills the client and then
an affiliate can be
a channel.
An affiliate network can be a way of channel, but here's the shift that I have seen. So channel partners can, especially, you have MSPs and like they have Microsoft or Google Workplace. Like there's not a lot of choices for some of the things they represent, but then there are others where there are hundreds or thousands of choices, right? I work with a lot of telecom with the actual channel partner. They're the ones that help the end user decide, what are we bringing in? Verizon? Are we bringing in, right? Who are we bringing in, and what's the best for your company? But here's where it falls off. As the company relying on the channel, we used to see that channel as our sales reps, and their job was to bring us business. And that dynamic has done a 180. It's a shift. We now need to work for the channel instead of having the channel work for us. What are we doing to bring that channel value? Are we making introductions into that channel as well? It is no longer a one-way stream of leads in the door. So I'm just going to share a big channel that I work with is insurance. Like I work with a lot of insurance or life insurance brokers and P&C companies, and they have all of these independent brokers that can sell any life insurance, and we want you to pick us. Or we could sell any P&C, but we want you to pick us. And so what they are doing now is they are becoming this value added. I don't know if I'm not going to drop their name, but there's a big P&C company that I work with and a title insurance company that I work with. And every quarter I do a training and they bring in their prospective channel and I teach them LinkedIn. It has nothing to do with insurance, but they are, and they have lots of people coming in to
they're making sure their channel is more modern.
They're modernizing their channel, but they're also becoming this resource for them, right? Mm-hmm. It's like I need to earn the business of the channel, where 20 years ago, the channel had to be lucky to be part of my ecosystem because I was paying them to refer business to me. And it is the absolute 180 now. The company needs to nurture the channel.
Chris, what do you got for us?
I mean, at least with ours, it tends to be depending on the partner. It's going to come down to, are you bringing them something that they're not aware of? Do you have relationships within a particular account that they may or may not have? Maybe they want those, or maybe they're not as deep, or what have you. But it's bringing something to that relationship. I mean, I know that's a rehash a little bit of what we've already talked about, but I think it's not a one-way street. It definitely has to be a symbiotic relationship there.
So let's talk more specifically about what that means. If I am the owner of a manufacturing company or a tech company or whatever, insurance company, whatever it is, and I'm a mid-sized company and I don't have a ton of money, and I have a handful of reps who are managing those relationships, what does that mean I have to actually do? Because before they just called us and said, oh, this person wants to buy from you, but that's not working. So what do I have to actually do differently? I'm not a multi-billion-dollar company with tons of marketing resources. So Bryn, go ahead, give us some ideas.
So I can get tactical or I can get strategic, but what you have to do is help them succeed. Right? Your goal as a company is to help that channel partner succeed. Now, there are some companies that will also compete with their channel, like they will sell directly. That's a little harder. But if you are relying on your channel as the primary way of bringing in business, open up your LinkedIn connections to them. Say, look, here are some of the people that I know that you might want to meet. Because if I'm not selling directly and I'm 100% channel, why not? Right? Why not make some and let them bring the business in this way? And one of the things that we can do, and we're doing this all the time now, is we're having the channel partners build out in the free LinkedIn a search of exactly the people they want to know. Maybe there's 50 companies they're trying to get into. So they have 50 companies and they have the roles that they're trying to get into. And then they use the first degree filter. They take that URL, which is built on filters, and that we have that channel partner send it to your connections at my company. So, right. And we're going to go through all of our connections. We're going to click on that link and see who do we know that you want to meet. And we'll make some strategic introductions on your behalf. And all of a sudden, we become a way for them to grow business. And I just have them say, I'm happy to make these introductions. I just want to make sure that we're the first right of refusal when you sell the business. And usually they're perfectly fine with that. So,
Liz, when you say what else can you do, I kind of spoke from the perspective of a company that uses a channel before, and I'll speak from the perspective of a company that is a channel this time, because I have clients that also fall in that range too. And knowing the strategic discussions that I'm in, I will tell you the channel follows momentum, right? So this is that part of externalize, like you aren't just externalizing for the customers that are doing the research and everything else. And Bryn, to your point, when I said they're helping modernize the channel, again, you're as weak as if the channel is following momentum, that momentum could just be price chasing, right? It is largely what is the best commission, who's offering who's offering spiffs or this because there's a new product or whatever. So they're chasing momentum. Show them the momentum that you have and make them invested in it too, right? So upskilling them, modernizing them, doing that's helping them create some of their own momentum, but also what is the momentum that you have that they want to be a part of? It makes it an easier sale. It's not that hard. You're making it an easier sale for them, but you have to be able to demonstrate some sort of momentum because their job is to basically represent momentum. Right? Like they're supposed to be putting the things in front of the customer that are going to carry that are durable for the customer, that are moving forward, that are innovative, that's what they're paying. They're being paid for their expertise for often. So you have to prove if yours is durability and stability, you want to show if your momentum is around innovation, whatever your momentum is around, you have to make sure that they are pulled in with your momentum and not out chasing someone else's. Commission is where I see the most. And if you aren't on top of it, you'll just lose to a commission spiff somewhere.
Commission is important. Making it easy for them to sell for you is important. If it is hard to sell for you, if it's hard to communicate with you, if it's hard for them to explain why you bring value, if your marketing isn't as spiffy as somebody else's, if you don't have the features, whatever it is that your customers, the end user wants, if you're not making it easy for your channel to do that, they're not gonna sell your stuff. Chris, what are you gonna say?
No, you sort of stole my thunder. I was gonna say, you have to make it easy for them. You have to, do you understand what they need, right? Do you understand how that channel operates? And do you understand how ultimately the people that you're working with on that side get paid? And if you can understand those things, then you can figure a way to maximize that for them. If you do that, then you're gonna have somebody that's happy and working with you. If you don't, then you're not. Like if you were working with one of the big hyperscalers, for them, it's all about volume and new pieces of the business that they want to have a piece of that they don't have, or a new business altogether that they're not in. And that's where they're going to see value. Are there loads that they can take, that they can bring to the cloud that they're not? So, you have to be able to understand what are they trying to do? How are you gonna be valuable to them? If you're not valuable to them, they only have the same number of hours in the week, right? They only have the same 168 or whatever it is.
So I love that. And I think a big thing is that they'll go to market with you as well.
Yep.
Right. You schedule me on a call. Here's my calendar. You want to get me on with a prospect or a client? I'm happy to do that. I think when it feels more like a partnership, and I think, and I've been pulled in a couple of times with some of my partners just to bring value to a call. And it's very interesting in that when they bring excessive value or value, for example, I work with an enormous amount of financial planners and insurance folks, and so a financial planner who may be fee only, there may be questions on whole life, but they don't sell the insurance because they're fee only. They'll bring in someone to have that conversation. It's more of an affiliate or relationship partner, and they'll go to market together, because then that whole life insurance broker will now bring in the wealth manager, because they don't compete, but they're serving the same client. So going to market together is a really good way to leverage.
So let me give you another example of that. So I go to market with my channel partners, and I'm a channel partner for people, companies. So we go to market together with training. They will bring me in to do a training for two reasons. So when I'm working with MEPs, which is manufacturing extension partnerships who help the manufacturing sector in every state, they bring me in to do training that their clients can experience for free. And it ends up being lead generation for both of us. I have another channel partner I work with that is a technology tool who is selling to manufacturing. So we just came up with an entire campaign that I can be a part of, because I can help them with those clients and they can help me, right? So that's great, because I do training as part of what I do. But in your company, you may be training people. There are lots of ways you can go to market together. You can go to market together with marketing materials. You can go to market together with videos. You can go to market together with all kinds of things that are dual prospecting opportunities. So be creative. Anything else on this before we wrap this up? So the bottom line is your channel has no obligation to sell for you.
I'll just throw in from the last episode, we talked about the experience of the ongoing experience, not just the new experience for your customers. It's the same with channel, right? Are the customers that your channel is bringing in getting a great experience? Because at the end, they really care about the experience that they're selling to someone, because their reputation is on the line, right? So are they getting as good of an experience as your direct customers? Are you continuing with a good experience? Is it easy for them to resell? But then, as Chris pointed out, make it easy to do. As you said, Liz, make it easy to do business with them. What is the experience the channel partner is having with you? If they're having to do all the heavy lifting, if you don't have the air cover, the support, the sales enablement that they need, then their experience is not as great. And even if your experience with the customer is the superior one, but someone else has an okay one and the channel partner experience is much better, you're at risk, right? If your channel experience part is really, really good, but your customer experience is not as good, you're at risk. So it's dual.
It's dual. And I want to finish with one more thought, which is this is strategic. Again, it is not reactive. We talked about this in our last episode. It is not reactive. It is not accidental. It is not haphazard. If you want your channel partners to deliver, you need to have a strategy. You need to know who your most important channel partners are and figure out what is your plan to help them succeed. You need to figure out which channel partners could be selling more and what you need to do to help them do that. You need to figure out which of your channel partners are maintenance. You just do whatever it is they need to keep going. You need to figure out which channel partners you're wasting energy on and you should cut ties with. This is a strategic decision with strategic thinking, tactics to support it, meetings and planning and all of those things. It doesn't just happen. And I think what's happened for a lot of us is what was just happening stopped And because we've never had to have a really strategic plan, or we haven't in 20 or 30 years, we don't know how to do it. It's time to step back and start being strategic. Chris,
Liz, can I make that
yeah, go ahead.
tangible? Can I make that tangible? Reactive. Let's take them all out to dinner. Let's all go to a game, and I'm gonna make sure that they know I was the one that took them out to a good time or whatever. Proactive. I have sales enablement materials. I've made it easy. I've improved the experience. It's easy to do good business with me, right?
I'm training them. I'm training their customers. I'm on site. I'm doing whatever they need. Chris, did you have a thought before we wrap up?
Nope. I think the focus is just, again, you have to treat them as if they're your prospect or your customer, and you're going to take care of them. You're going to make it easy for them. You're going to make it to where you're providing value to them. And I have found that when you do that, the other part, one thing I was going to bring is they all talk. They all have, if you're in a particular industry, all those people know each other. And so if you're providing value, you're going to get brought up in other conversations that you're not part of. And if you are, both ways, but hopefully it's positive. And if it's positive, you're going to get more business out of that.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Sales SOS podcast. Okay, Bryn, I know you have to leave in 15 minutes. So do you want to?
So I may be able to stay a little longer because they're not here. So I will stay until the babies walk through the door.
So do you want to do trade shows, or prospecting is harder?
Prospecting for sure.
Okay, we'll do trade shows last. So you ready? Welcome to the Sales SOS podcast. I'm Liz Hyman, your host, and I am here with your Sales SOS podcast crew, Chris Bowen, Renee Bigelow, and Bryn Tillman. And this week we're talking about why is what I've always done not working anymore? Used to work great, and now it's not working. And in this episode, we want to talk specifically about why is prospecting so much harder, and what do I do about it? If you want to hear what we talked about in the last episodes, we talked about clients going away that you've always counted on, and we talked about channel partners not delivering the way they used to. But in this episode, I really want to focus on why is prospecting so hard? And I mean, I hear it over and over. Bryn, let's start with you. Why is prospecting so hard?
So I'm going to go through my bullet list, and then we can talk about it, because this is something that I face all the time. I'm on conversations with clients saying what we used to do used to work and it doesn't anymore. I'm going to start with the big picture, is that most salespeople have narcissistic tendencies, and that they are approaching everything from I need to make a sale instead of I need to make an impact. So that's like the overarching challenge. So I'm just going to go through quickly. Buyers are overwhelmed with outreach, so they've learned to ignore most of it. And AI has made that even harder. The connect and pitch approach has burned trust. People are like, it's like when you walk into a car dealership, you're going to get hit by 50 people asking you, right, if you need help. People feel like that everywhere they go when they're surrounded by sellers, right? Prospects receive dozens of sales messages every single day. Buyers research on their own before they talk to sellers. So your outreach is only going to be effective if, when they do their due diligence, they're willing to, they see what they need, that you earn the right to get that conversation. The buying committee is larger than ever and more cautious than ever. Visibility before outreach makes a big difference. I can never say that word. Familiarity. Yeah, that word. I use it all the time in writing and I can't say it. And in fact, if you listen to my audiobook, I say it wrong 3 times. Anyway. So now it's stuck in my head. But anyway, so like that, it matters so much. Visibility before outreach, right? They just have to know you. They have to know your brand before they'll respond. Generic messaging gets ignored, and even worse, engineered empathy is killing trust. Where I start reading this and it sounds like you got to know me before we had this conversation. And then I realized it was all AI generated, right? So trust must be earned before a sales conversation ever happens today. The goal of prospecting is opening the door, not closing the deal. Really, really important. And something we opened up with in a previous episode was sellers need to detach from what that prospect is worth to them and attach to what they are worth to the prospect. We cannot assume anyone wants a conversation with us. We have to earn that trust. We have to earn the right. And we have to do this by doing something that all salespeople were trained not to do, which is give away free consultation, right? In fact, there are still sales training out there that says never give away free consultation. Well, guess what? A YouTube channel and Notebook LM is going to give them all the free consultation they'll ever going to need. So if you don't do it, someone else is or something else is. So we have to show up with with a giving. I'm going to help you, and then I'm going to earn the right for you to pay me to help you more.
Okay, so our buyers are overwhelmed. Our buyers don't trust. Our buyers have more bureaucracy to go through than ever. Our buyers are looking at AI and they are overwhelmed with what's coming out of AI. If they're anything like me, they're really overwhelmed. And AI is giving them more choices, and AI is also telling them what the downside or what the risk is in a way that they've never realized the risk existed before, which is making it even harder for them to make buying decisions. So with this is two-part. One is how do I prospect? And then it goes into a larger of how do
Can I just say one more thing before we move on? I had a client come to me and say, I was on a prospecting call and my prospect went into ChatGPT and said, give me all the objections I need to say on this buyer's call. And literally it told them what to object to. So we've got to overcome this, right? We've got to, they have the ability to do this now. And so, we can say, but that's what people are doing. They're saying, why should I not buy from this person? And so we need to earn the right, and we earn the right through bringing value. One more thing, and then I'm done. We teach an acronym for content and messaging, which is called AWARE. So the first one is attract by resonating. How do we attract them? That we're talking to them as their title, their industry. We have to create wonder. So if we don't create like a curiosity, a wonder of, I want more, then we're going to lose them. And we have to do that in the first line or two in our outreach. Then we need to add value. So adding value means we've just taught them something they didn't know before. Then we need to get them to reframe in their mind how they're doing things. Like, I can now see what I just learned in my business. They're reframing their current situation. And we need to create engagement. We need to create a compelling moment where they go, okay, I learned enough. I got so much value from this 3-minute read or whatever it is that they have earned my time. And so be aware.
Okay, you guys, Renee, what have you got?
I think just going to back up a step and just say, we talked about AI is doing all this, and I 100% agree. And I think it's present more than most people give it recognition for. However, this arc has been building for quite some time. Since the dawn of the internet, we no longer had to rely on, in the last episode I referred to, the if you know, you know. And the salesperson in that time had the control. The salesperson had the information. The salesperson could tell you everything. You needed that access to someone in order to get the information. We now have a world where it's been moving more and more and more into buyer controlled and buyer driven versus sales driven. The problem is we have a lot of companies that don't accept that. Oh, did I lose?
We are having very strange technical issues today. People are bouncing in and out without any.
Here?
You're still here.
Okay. So we've moved in this world where we had a sales driven world. Post World War II, it was very sales driven. Tons of products people wanted. The only way to get to them was through sales, right? Now we have a buyer driven world, and it has been evolving with every new form of technology that enables the buyers to do more. AI is just the most recent evolution of that. It will likely be as explosive, if not more, as the democratizing the internet did, right? When that happens, we saturate channels that used to work and we break them. They're broken now. People don't answer the phone. People set up filters to move things out of their inbox. We have blockers now that can stop people from even getting through, right? They're broken because that's also where hackers go, and they're preying on the tactics that sales uses to hack into people and phish, right? So those things are broken. How do you get past that? One, you have to recognize in the buyer driven, what are people doing? So in Bren's example of Aware, and with her talking about you had to get brand awareness, you have to build trust. You have to externalize everything that was internal that your salespeople used to be able to control. You got to get that out there because they have to find it in their research. The bots have to scrape it and find it in order to return it in, whether it's search results or AI results or social results, right? All of those things. But then you have to go beyond that, and you have to activate whatever momentum you have in your business to drive more momentum to help with that moving in after the A, right? After the aware, to moving into curiosity, to moving into being willing to have conversations. That includes driving referrals. That includes making sure your business is top of mind in other ways. It's not just educational, but is it a brand that they know? Is it a brand that they've even heard of, that they recognize, that looks reputable? None of these things we had to do before when sales was the stopgap that did that for us, right? Like sales was everything at that moment. Now you've got to bring all that cavalry into sales. So prospecting has changed greatly, but not as many businesses has changed in the way that the market has changed. And I think that is one of the biggest problems that we see. To move beyond it, you have to invest in the fundamentals, right? Like you have to figure out.
What are those fundamentals?
Okay, so you really need to have your target persona and your ideal customer profile figured out. You really need to understand where your marketplace is, where the consumer driven behavior is going, so that you are going to market in the way that the consumer is purchasing and where they're buying and where they're showing up. And then you have to drive activation of momentum to where you're creating and manufacturing and engineering demand, not just capturing it. You will have moments of a gift market, and what you do with those will help you drive that momentum further. There will be things that will cause surges that people will come to you, but you can't rely on those. You have to manufacture that in order for your prospecting to have any success. I'll stop because I talked for a little while and that was a lot.
Chris, do you have something to add?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's also is your message the right message for your customer, right? Like,
wait. Be specific, because when you say customer, you mean more than that. You mean each buyer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Please explain that.
And don't. Well, first you need to understand who's the buyer within that business, right? If you go back and look at all the work that was done by the corporate executive board years ago, and at that point it was 7 to 10. I've heard anywhere from 10 to 15, 15 to 20. It expands and contracts periodically. But you have a lot more people that you now need to understand. And whether you like it or not, the CMO's concerns are very different than the CFO's concerns, or different than the COO's concerns in their organizations. And if you're not bringing the message to those individuals that they need to hear while still being, I'll say, mostly consistent with the overall theme, then you're going to miss the mark. right? Like you have to talk to people in the language that they want to hear, not just what you're comfortable with. And that requires a lot more breadth than what we would have than what you may have typically needed when, hey, I'm selling to the head of manufacturing within this particular account. I know exactly what he needs. But if I now had to switch up and go to the CIO or the CTO for that organization because they're the ones who actually make sure those machines can print and do everything else that they need to, well, now I have a different conversation that I need to be prepared to have. So, or pull in the right people that can help me have that conversation. It's just a much more complex matrix, but that's also the thing that AI is going to have a little bit more challenge with is how do I build those relationships across? It may be able to direct really good conversations towards one individual. It's going to have a little bit more difficult time, I think, with the matrix organizations that we have to deal with today.
So let me add a little bit to that, because one, let me just start with this AI. I actually ask AI, who are all of the buyers who might be involved in this buying decision in a manufacturing company or in a hospital or whatever it is, and what language would they use to talk about this problem? So you can actually get AI to help you. But I want to go back to what Renee was saying, which is we need to be where our buyer is, talking about what our buyer cares about, which is what Chris was saying, in a way that our buyer can understand it. And this is this idea of business complex sale and understanding the buying influences. Now we talk about it as account-based marketing or account-based sales, right? So if I have a complex business-to-business sale, which is what we're usually talking about on this podcast, and I have 15 buyers, and marketing is only marketing to the person who's likely to come to my website, they are setting me up for failure, because the person who's coming to my website to do the research is not the person who's buying. They're not the one with the authority to make the buying decision, and they're probably the lowest level buyer in the group. So I now need to think about campaigns that stretch across my target market and ideal customers. Campaigns that say the CEO is at this conference, the CMO is going to be at this conference, and the CFO is going to be at this conference, which means I need to show up to each of those with different messaging in a different way, maybe bring different team members to have the right conversations. If the CEO is reading this blog or listening to this podcast, but the head of manufacturing is listening to this podcast, how do I get on those podcasts with the message in the right way that that person is listening to? It is not simple, and it takes work, which is why we need to narrow our market, be clear who we're talking to, and talk to the right person about the right thing. And my favorite example of this was a lovely young man that I used to coach, who I said to one day, okay, you're going to go talk to the engineer. What are you going to talk to him about? And he said, ROI. Everybody, you can't see their faces, but Chris, Bryn, and Renee are like in shock.
I'm laughing.
We're laughing but we do it all the time. We just assume that we have a value prop and it works for all of the buyers, and it is not true. So if we want to be heard, we have to speak the language of our buyers.
So Liz, to make this tangible, what I do for my clients is, I've mentioned that I do a target persona canvas, and it is a very detailed, I have a whole bunch of things that I run through that every target, this is not a demographic, and it is not some fake persona made up conversation, right? These are data points that are critical to how you're going to message to them, to understanding them, and there's psychographics involved with firmographics involved with demographics, right? It's a mixture. It's how they do business. It's what does their day look like? It's how do they, where are the channels where they show up, right? Where are they getting information? Who are their trusted sources? Who are the people that influence them? That's for every position that is a target persona, right? The firmographic and how the business operates is on the ideal customer profile, right? So those things together, when I talk about fundamentals and I say how fundamental that is, that needs to be distributed across your organization. and they need to understand it greatly, and they all need to be contributing to it. It's not a marketing thing, and it's not a sales thing. It is a company-wide thing, because otherwise your product is not going to get developed in the way that your customer wants it, right? If that side, your operations team doesn't understand the experience that they need to be driving, finance doesn't understand how decisions and things are happening on the other side of the customer, all of it. Like, there's nothing immune.
Your engineers who are out doing podcasts or out doing webinars, all
right?
of that matters.
This is some of the top alignment that you need in your, it's not marketing and sales alignment. That's actually fairly easy to get around target persona and ideal customer profile. It's full universal company alignment around these fundamentals, right? And really understanding it and having people go through the exercises. I have a client that is a two-sided marketplace, and I'm working through right now with the supply side. They've never applied what is an ideal vendor profile, right? It's the exact same thing that we're applying on what is the ideal customer profile. What is the target persona inside that ideal vendor profile? Like, these are the fundamentals that help you prospect better, because as you're trying to prospect directly to that person, not the company, right? You can do some of the company level at the marketing level, but you're talking to a person when you get into sales and prospecting. You know how to talk to them right away. You have a lot of information there for you. You can use it to help guide the decisions that you make inside the company, but also to help guide you on where to be, help guide you on who to talk to, help guide you on what to say. All of those things are there. And that is missing from a lot of places. I will tell you, most of the ones, if I say, do you have a target persona when I get into a new client, it's 3 or 4 data points, mostly a demographic, maybe like we made up a little narrative or something about them, but it's not the things that are actionable data points that help you understand where to go, how to do it, who to talk to.
So let me just share what we didn't do. What we didn't do was tell you you should be dialing for dollars. What we didn't do is say LinkedIn is the only way. What we didn't do is say you have to be at trade shows. What we didn't do is say you must be on this podcast. None of us know the answer sitting here to that question for you. You need to know where your buyers are, and you need to figure out a strategy, a set of campaigns that reach them where they are. I can't tell you sitting here for your business what the right one is. What I can tell you is they're less likely to see your email when they get thousands and thousands and thousands of emails a month. They are less likely to pick up your call when they are spammed all day long and their phone tells them that it's spam. They might listen to your message if you actually leave one. They are not, it's hard to get people's attention now on LinkedIn because there's so much spamming going on. It is hard. It is just hard to get people's attention. So the better your message is, the clearer you are about who's going to like what you're doing, who's going to benefit from it, the easier it is to do any of those activities. So start with who is your customer. Start with what matters to them. Go to where are they and how do I reach them? Because it's different for all of the different buyers, and then come up with a strategy for how you're going to accomplish it.
And I would also say, don't let that stuff get dusty, right? You're going to have to refresh it periodically with new information that you have with the way things have changed. If you keep it and it just becomes essentially shelfware, then you're missing the value that can have. And you've got a lot of people in your organization that should be able to provide data points that are going to be helpful there across the organization, not just from a sales and marketing perspective.
100%, Chris. I recommend that it at least be a bullet point of a quarterly planning. Like, if you're going to set your priorities, like whatever you're doing in priorities, that somebody needs to look at it and say, did anything change on here? Right? There may not be. There may not be a major change, or maybe one simple change or whatever, but like, it needs to match the rhythm of the business for that.
Yeah, you don't want to get whipsawed with it, right? Like, you don't want to just be changing it on a whim, but you need to reevaluate. In the same thing that you would do in other things when you have certain set of assumptions. Are you revisiting those assumptions about the account, about your market, about those types of things periodically to see if they still hold true? Because those things can change on a dime, and it's an easy way to get left behind.
One of the reasons I recommend in the planning, like tying it to quarterly planning or whatever your plan, if it's,
Sure.
every 6 months,
Hopefully not annual.
whatever it is in your organization. One of the reasons I recommend it is it really needs universal buy-in. We all have to agree that has changed, or it gets worse and worse because it starts drifting and diverging in different parts of the organization.
And then the one last piece is, does AI know you exist? Because we just said that AI is becoming increasingly more important in the buying process. And Bren has come up with a brilliant way to help AI know you exist. We have to be aware that if we are not doing the things that will help AI know that we exist, our clients will not know that we exist because AI won't put us in the list. So,
Liz,
yeah.
can I also just share one tactical, like one practical, not tactical, but it's a practical thing. I always like to have one practical thing because I know that some of what we say sometimes is kind of heady and bigger think for strategic planning sessions and things like that. But please don't go to your sales team and yell at them about prospecting success before you have even put the thought into the fundamentals and activating a referral program.
It is still the easiest. The easiest sale is to people you know. The second easiest sale is to people who have been referred to you, right? Yes. Make life easy.
I just show of hands, how many of you see complaints about prospecting inside companies that also have referral programs?
Well, it's still there, but it's easier.
Yep.
Right? Like, how many see complaints without referral programs? Everyone, right?
Well, the other thing, though, is it's just having a referral program isn't enough. We have to teach reps how to not just say, so, Chris, I'm so glad we've been able to help you do X, Y, and Z. Who else do you know that could use our products and services the way you have? And this is how it's still taught. And Chris doesn't know, but what we need to do is teach them, how do we do a better job of this? So I can look through Chris's connections on LinkedIn if we're a first degree. And I can say, hey, Chris, I noticed you're connected to quite a few people that I'd love to get in touch with. Can I run these names by you and get your thoughts? Or even better, I can create a first degree search of my ideal customer profile, take that link and share it with Chris and say, Chris, here's a list of all the people you know that I'd like to meet. I'm not even looking at them, but I know that link will bring him a list of people that match my ICP. And of these folks, who would you be comfortable introducing me to? And then of the other folks, can I drop your name? And so no matter what program we have in place, we have to make sure that we're teaching the reps the most effective way to get this done in the least amount of time with the highest ROI. Unless they're engineers, and then don't focus on ROI.
Don't focus on ROI. All right. Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Sales SOS podcast. Okay. Bren, you're still with us for a few more minutes?
Yeah, they're not here yet. I think I still have 20 minutes.
I have to drop, but it was great seeing y'all.
Bye, Chris.
Bye, Chris.
Bye.
All right.
Yeah, they're running late. I love it.
Welcome to the Sales SOS podcast. I'm Liz Hyman, your host, and I am here with your Sales SOS podcast crew, Renee Bigelow and Bren Tillman.
Hi.
And this week we're talking about why is what I have always done not working anymore. And we've had some great episodes. Go back and listen to them. We've talked about why we're losing our biggest customers. We've talked about, or why they're at risk. We've talked about using the channel more effectively to get better results. We've talked about prospecting and why it's so hard now. But today I want to talk now about trade shows. There are a lot of companies that rely on trade shows. And what I keep hearing is these leads aren't converting the way they used to. We used to go to the trade show. We get 5 or 6 good leads. We'd close a couple of them in a couple of months, and some of them would take 6 or 8 months. And it's just not happening that way anymore. We go to trade shows and we're not getting the results we used to get. What do you guys think of that? Why are companies not getting the same results at trade shows that they used to get? Or why are deals not closing as quickly?
I mean, I can start. I'm happy to. So a few things are happening. Number one, trade shows used to be the only place you could see all the new stuff. And we can see all the new stuff in a lot of other places, right? So just go on YouTube and you can see every new stuff out there. So that's number one. Number two, I believe that there's not enough upfront work done from the tables and the booth people, right? There's very little pre-conference activity. Right. They're all focused on the stuff and the tchotchkes and the this and the that. And do we have our little, stand set up? And very little has been done to invite people to the booth in advance. There's very little strategy, except don't stand behind the table, stand in front of the table. That's your strategy. Right. And that's not really enough.
Have a really big prize so everybody will give us their business card or get scanned. So, we'll have 1,000 names.
Right. And just having candy at your booth isn't getting people that are interested in more than just your candy. So there has to be a strategy that's in place. And I'm going to table that for a second because there's a couple of tactical things I want to talk about. Number one, use social media to post leading up to this event for 3 or 4 weeks. Reach out to your clients and your prospects and say, hey, I'm not sure if you're going to be there, but we're going to be at booth 100. Please let me know if you're going to be there. I'd love to schedule a time to be with you, to meet with you. Have a particular event at a particular time at your booth where you can draw a crowd. Make sure it's not at the same time as the best speaker. Like, be strategic about it. This is something that we had one of our banking clients had a huge booth at a very big event that was critical for their business. And I think they probably spent $100,000 on the booth. And their job was to collect business cards before I had this conversation. I said, no. Oh, and stuff bags with all their flyers. I said, the first thing they're going to do when they get back to their hotel is take out the flyers and throw them out. So we created a hub in SmartLinks, which is a sales navigator tool, where all of their PDFs were in the hub. And there was a big QR code to scan to get their PDFs. But what they get when it gets scanned is who looked at it for how long and did they download it. So now there was a follow-up strategy. And as soon as they scanned it and they clicked on it, we now knew they were at our booth and they scanned it. And amazingly, people like to scan stuff at conferences, much more than stuff things into their bags. So our tchotchkes are still fun. Flyers, stop printing them. They're all getting thrown out. Start creating a hub. It doesn't have to be a smart link. It could be any hub that captures the information of the person that's looking at your content. And then the follow-up is so much easier because we know they looked at our stuff. So that's just, I could go on for hours and hours on what to do. Oh, one more thing is your LinkedIn app has a QR code. You can open this up. People can scan your QR code and hit connect. Have a little message ready that says, great meeting you at ABC conference. I'm looking forward to continuing our conversation. Send it right away. And now you have a very good follow-up list of people.
Excellent. Renee, what have you got?
So love all the suggestions that Bren made. I'll kind of back up just a step. I wanted to say, like, if we back up a little bit, I think you heard Bren talk about the booth, right? I think one of the first things that we can kind of zero in on is trade shows used to be discovery events, right? Now they're validation events for the most part.
What do you mean by that? Explain that better.
The show floor used to do the work. You'd show up, you'd walk around the floor, you'd do it all. Now, most of that activity happens before and after, right? It just becomes the show floor is a hub for the activity that happens before and after. people have done research before they come. Other vendors have done their work before they come, and they've booked up that time that used to be spent wandering on the floor. The floor is activity that was planned prior for the most part now. And I think that's, again, we're talking about consumer behavior changing and not recognizing the change for the most part. But this is what we do, right? And yeah, you still got to have a decent booth experience. It doesn't mean you don't do the signs and you don't do, but you put somebody, generally, you're going to have marketing handle. What does it look like? What's the activation? What are the things that we need to have? What are the ordering? Like, generally, you're going to have either an event team or you're going to have somebody in marketing or an event team within marketing. It's going to handle that part. That is not the sales strategy for what you're going to do. A higher level of strategy is, who are we trying to reach? How are we going to get to them? Have we reached out to them ahead of time? Have we set appointments? Have we taken advantage of all of the cracks of the day where things are happening? Do you have dinners booked, lunches booked, breakfast booked, happy hour attendees, like all of those things, rather than relying on them to come to you? I'm essentially saying we got to make it pull, right? And where it's not already pull, we got to push to get those appointments and get those times. Does that make sense? I think that's kind of the first reality that we need to recognize. And then that's what I mean by it's a validation event, not a discovery event. I'm not walking around trying to find vendors. I can remember going to trade shows in my early years in my career, walking around and collecting the things that Bryn's talking about that are being thrown out now, right? Because I didn't have the way to do the research for those things, and I knew I could find it all in one place. Now I do I'm either doing the research before I go, or people have already reached out to me. I'm booked by the time I get there. I am solid end to end. There is no free time left at a conference. And for us, we might call it a trade show. For our customer, it's a conference generally, right? So they're coming and they're booked and it's all planned out for them for the most part. There's really, generally, I haven't gone to one in years where it's nothing but sleep time, right? You're booked from 8 in the morning till 9 at night, pretty much solid. There's no like hanging out by the pool with a vendor, in the middle of the day anymore or whatever. I just think that's a really big difference. 60 to 70% of that research or that time has already been booked before they ever arrive there. I think that's so important to understand that distinction, because I see too many people, as Bryn said, acting like it's where they're going to get discovered, right? There's still huge gaps in collecting information from the people you're interacting with. Even if you are doing old school and doing a business card drop, somebody needs to be processing those and getting it into the CRM and noting in the CRM. There are automated workflows for much of this. There is OCR that can capture the information on the business card and put it directly into. Nobody has to sit there and type everything on a business card. Like, there are ways to do this that are easy, but it needs to get into the CRM and it needs to be tagged with they attended the event and tagged with that they dropped their business, whatever the things are, right? A simple thing that I've done just to make it easier for our team in many instances is I make a form that would normally be like an inbound form, but I give the form to the sales team or the booth team. And so anybody they interact with, they fill out the form for the person they interacted with, and it'll trigger some sort of automation that goes, like a workflow that goes behind it, like, thanks for coming out to meet us, or whatever, so that it's automated right there, because they're going to forget other ways. All they got to remember to do is just fill out the form for the person, right? And they might take the business card and fill it out, but they can do it in the breaks of the day, essentially. And then it's all handled. So some sort of something more than we paid the conference for the badge scanning thing or whatever. Something more than that needs to be done with the data.
Can I add to that before you move on? Because SmartLinks is part of Sales Navigator. And if your Sales Navigator is connected to your CRM, you can literally add that activity right to your CRM. So that is a very simple process. We're capturing it inside of LinkedIn, but then we can capture and just the fact that they scanned that at the conference
Yes.
Right? Just they scan, that automatically can tag in.
So that kind of tags in with that after part. So we talked about the before part and how booked up it is. And even if you aren't, even if they aren't doing the research, trying to set up their own appointments that your competitors are. So that's the before part. The after part is, okay, you did engage with people. What is the follow-up plan? Like magically waiting on them to start converting? Or have you thought of what can kick in immediately that nurtures them, that educates them?
Well, that's what I'm saying. You can automate that into a drip campaign that they don't even have to be back at their office before the first email is going.
100%. 100. There are many ways to do that.
Yeah.
But so whether it's immediate or not, what I see is no plan for after.
Moving forward,
Okay.
right.
So here's what I'm hearing. And that what I've been saying as well in the past, which is a trade show is about before, during, and after. So the first part of before is where should we really be? I can't tell you how often I have conversations with sales leaders about, yeah, they went to this conference, but it wasn't the right people. Well, why were you there? Why did you spend $50,000 if it wasn't the right people? There are lots of different kinds of conferences, and different kinds of buyers go to different kinds of conferences. Do your homework. Go first before you ever sign up as a team, get a table. Someone go to that conference and see what it's like, see who's there. There are conferences that are just primarily trade shows. There are conferences that are primarily about the talks, and the trade show is, or the convention floor is a part of it. There are trade shows that or events that are just connection events where you actually pay somebody to put you in front of the right buyers. Figure out where you need to be. What kind of events do you need to be at? That's the first thing. Target it right. The second thing is understand who's going to be there. I do not understand how you can show up to every trade show with the same messaging. If I'm going to talk to CEOs are going to be at this one and CMOs are going to be at that one, why does my booth say the same thing? The third thing is, so the first thing is, what's the before? So the before is making sure you're at the right place. The before is what you guys were talking about. Who do I want to talk to at that event? Like, who's going to be there? Which of my clients are going to be there? Which prospects that I'm really trying to get to are going to be there? Do your homework, and it takes a lot of work. But you're investing $50, $60, $70, $100,000 in this. Invest in the time to get prepared.
In many companies, Liz, I just want to point this out. It's the number one expense. It's the number one marketing.
And it's show up and pray.
Yes.
So show up, make sure that you know, Bryn has to run. Renee and I will wrap this up. Make sure you know who you want to talk to. I tell every salesperson, pick 10 people that you think might be at that trade show that are really important for you to talk to. And I tell them to buy 10 really nice gifts. Not the regular tchotchkes, the pens. I have this, and then you leave a message, text them, call them, whatever. I have a special gift waiting for you at the booth. I'd love for you to come by and pick it up.
Yeah.
Right? You've now personalized this.
You made it pull.
You made a pull. So we've got before. Who do I want to talk to? Where do I want to be? Who at this event? How am I going to get their attention? Right now we have the I'm there at the event. What is happening? I'm going to push back a little bit on what Renee and Bryn said. Some people are walking the floor and discovering things. Be prepared for them.
70%.
Right. Be prepared for them, but be prepared for the people that are going to be booked up. You booked their time as well. Then the after matters. And here's what I hear often is, yeah, I got home from the trade show. I'd been away for 4 days. I was way behind and I didn't ever follow up with them. You just spent $100,000 to go to a trade show, and there were a bunch of marketing messages out to people, some of whom mattered, some of who didn't. I do this old school still. I carry a little notebook that's maybe 4 inches by 3 inches, just a little paper pad. I bring a stapler. If somebody has a card, I literally staple their card to this little notebook. I write my notes for the 5, 6, or 10 people that matter. Let the rest of them scan, but the people that I talk to that matter, I write my notes in my notebook. Now I can put that into a form when I get a chance or add it to the CRM, but I don't get home and forget and wonder where their card is and did it just get stuck in the pile with everything else. I know who the 5 or 10 people were or 3 people that I met that might actually buy something. Now we can begin a buyer seller journey together that will actually have momentum. But you're not going to have momentum with 1,000 people who put their card in to get a smoothie. Like it's just not going to happen.
So Liz, can I, we've kind of shared it's not working and sort of the easier things of why it's not working. It's hard for these companies that we're talking about, but they're easy things to do. Meaning you add some elbow grease and some thought in the beginning, and after you'll see a lot of change, right? Like you should see lift pretty quickly with adding those things in. It's new to them, so it's new muscle. It's hard to do the first time, but it's not hard to achieve, right? Hard to do if you haven't done it, but not hard to achieve. There's another set of people who have done that and still find they aren't getting what they used to get. So what's the next level of optimization that I look for? And often I actually look for both at the same time if I'm bothering, because I happen to know both. But for capacity is constraint, do that. Everything we just talked about needs to happen first. If you've already started that, here are some things I think that are really important. One, don't be just a vendor. Just a vendor is pretty much the lowest spot in the trade show hierarchy. So what can you do to not be just a vendor? If you're not just a vendor, you may be hosting something that's a wraparound, right? So, and it's something fun. Those are always, not always, but almost always a success. You take them off to some experience or whatever, you're hosting something, you're no longer just a vendor because you have an experience that you're taking them, the day before or whatever, right? Or if there's free time in the evening, whatever there is. The best way to consider it is, how do you integrate more into the event itself, though? So if you're spending all this money on the booth, what could you be doing that gets you access deeper integrated into the event? Sometimes it's not money. Sometimes it is. Sometimes there's a pay to play level, meaning you get a booth and there's some sort of speaker track. It might be a smaller one that you can get into or whatever. You still have to meet their editorial quality, but you get something. Maybe you get announcement mentions. Maybe you get on the registration things, whatever. Integrate yourself more than just a vendor with a booth.
Wait, stop for 1 second. Mm-hmm. Because the other thing I see is we've got 5 people sitting at a booth all day long while people are in.
No, take shifts.
Take shifts. Go participate. Meet people who are doing workshops and whatever. Go play, because 1, you'll learn a ton. 2, that's where you'll meet people that are having
real
unguarded conversations.
Yeah. And then the top, or the really top echelon of the hierarchy is become a speaker, right? Get your message up on a stage. That can be multiple ways. Do not think it's always your CEO has to be the speaker because you're, their thought leadership. That might be the way. You may have a very dynamic CEO and that works. I had a client that did that, and I came in immediately and changed it. And we made a forum where we brought their customers in to talk about their stories. And it was a hero's journey. The customers were all telling their stories. Went from 5 people showing up to watch the CEO in a little room, right, with his deck that was thought leadership. And it was great. It was much better than doing nothing. But we went to 50 to 75 people in the room because they came to hear their peers. And that CEO was moderating. Oh, and guess what? We were the Robin to their Batman. The only way that Batman was able to achieve it is because Robin, us, did something in the background, right? That was the theme of the things they were talking about. So it was curated to be about us, but it wasn't us talking. So you're making sure pitch your customers to speak. Even if you can't, work with a customer who has a great story, who would qualify to be up there. Help them develop their presentation. Do the same work you would do for your CEO for that customer. Have a partner. Make sure the partner has a story that can find ways to get integrated in, right? And then if you can pitch an idea for a speaking thing, don't make it a pitch for your product. Make it something helpful and of value to the conference. And then there are the glimmers and the icing on top that you can do. Everybody asks for the same thing from event conferences. Study the conference, have your marketing team study the conference and look for gaps that aren't covered. So several years ago, I don't know, maybe 2021, whenever podcasts were really high right after COVID and conferences first started up, was that 2021, 2022, somewhere around in there, I had some of my clients propose we'll do a podcast from the event, and it will be the show. We'll be focusing on your show. They got a free booth to have their podcast, and they could walk around and talk to everybody, and they got like a special badge that let them do that, right? Find the gaps that help the event that you can represent too. So
I actually have a partner that helps people do exactly that. And they bring people, participants to the booth to interview, and then they create content. If you're interested in that, reach out to me and I will connect you with them.
Ways to integrate beyond just being a vendor.
Okay. And then we're going to do posts and then we're going to wrap up. But we spend the post chasing. I talked to you at the event. Did you want to buy something? Do you want to buy something? Do you want to talk to me? Do you want to buy something? Do you want to buy something? Do you want to talk to me? And everybody's chasing them. Stop chasing, start inviting and thinking about thanking them. If you figured out where if they have a card and they work in an office, or you got where they live and you tell them you want to send them something, send them a card. Everybody loves a thank you note. It was great to meet you. Send them a gift. I'm not saying send 1,000 people a gift. I'm saying send 5 people or 10 people a gift. Stop just chasing and figure out what you can do. Hey, everybody at this event asked me about this. So I'm sending an article to all of the people that I talked to, answering that question because I thought it might be useful to you too. If everybody else was asking that, right? What are you giving them? Because what we do after a conference is just chase, and everybody turns off their phones because they don't want to be bothered after the conference.
So Liz, that thing that you were saying about what you heard everybody was asking about this and share an article, 100%. But here's a postmortem that I do for every major event. I have a postmortem with my clients and I ask, what was everyone talking about? What were the most popular topics? Guess what becomes the next content we produce? Whatever topics are now top of mind with our target audience who was just at this event and it was the hot topic, right? So It could be a webinar, it could be a blog post, it could be what goes in our newsletter. It could be we call the people who were in those things and we get more from them, like we interview them. The same speaker who was talking, we call and say, hey, you had one of the most popular things. We'd love to do an article, an interview for you for an article. Or it could be doing a roundup of our customers and saying this was the hot topic. Where are you on this?
Or you could just from your phone at the conference say, I'm standing here at such and such conference, tag some of the people you've talked to and say, people keep asking me this question.
Yes.
Here's the answer.
You are in the spot at the moment with your target audience, seeing and feeling where their heads are. That needs to be, you need to draw that out beyond one day, right? Beyond one event. Draw that out and continue that momentum.
But again, this takes planning and thinking. And if you think that your salespeople are going to do their regular job and they're going to magically have all of this time for conferences, you're probably mistaken. So if you're going to add a whole bunch of before, during, and after work for the conference, how is that work going to get done? How are you going to support your salesperson with the other work that they need to do so that they can do this? We always add work without thinking about, is it possible for one person to actually do this? And how do we do it together as a company?
And one little last practical tip too, if you are flying people to a place where there's an event, and you have any customers or prospects who are in that same place, let them stay one more night and call on people while they're in town. There's a little cachet that gets them in the door with, I'm in town for this event that happens to be like tied to their industry, right? I'm in town for this. I'd love to chat with you while
are you going to be there? And if we're not going to be there, can I come by after? and see you.
Even better if you could give them, if your package involves, most booth packages come with some access tickets, right? If you can provide scholarships or tickets to the event to the local people who may not have budgeted to be in it.
Yep. All right. Well, that was great. Thanks so much, Renee and Bryn, who left us midway. But thanks for joining us for this episode of the Sales SOS podcast, and we will see you next month.